Hello and welcome back to Tiny Orders TV. For today's video we are continuing the 115 character creation challenge, and I'm finally free. I'm finally free of the 10, well I guess it was 5 heroes, 5 villains, the sub-series of that we did within the series. So here are the heroes and here are the villains. If you haven't watched those videos, feel free to go back and watch those videos. They're like each less than 10 minutes a piece. And yeah, so this is just a quick recap of what I was able to accomplish over those last few videos. And I think I did a pretty good job with the prompt, but it was definitely a little challenging, felt a little restricting. So I'm very happy to go back to just drawing solely based on the colors and whatever inspiration comes to me based on the palette. But I am also going to be pivoting in a direction using these videos to do more tutorials. And so for this set, and I had said in the last couple of videos that I was thinking of moving to sets of 3 just to kind of get this moving along a little bit faster. So this first set of 3, I'm going to tie it back into the lighting tutorial that I did on my last Saturday morning shuffle. And for each of these 3, I'm going to be expressing mood through whatever the most dynamic color in the palette is. It can still be whatever type of character I want it to be, but that is going to be kind of my goal, is to show how to convey mood, or how to show you guys how to convey mood through lighting, not only by color but by style, and I'll show you guys what I mean with that once we get started with the drawings. But for now, we need some colors to work with, so we're gonna go back to the whole chart. Give me just a second to pull that up for you. So if you guys remember what this chart looks like, here we are. And up to this point, I've done 20 characters, which, if my math is correct, we should be down to about 95 characters left in this challenge. And I'm hoping to maybe get this done this year, especially if I'm doing them in larger sets like groups of 3 and groups of 5. But yeah, this will be a pretty big undertaking either way, but let me stop rambling and go ahead to the random number generator and see what colors we have for today's characters. So I still have it set to 115 because it's, you know, everything until the last few get done. We'll still work with that. And our first palette is number 76. 76, Teal Dream. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and mark that in yellow. Our second set is number 97. Toucan Sam. That's a nice, fun, tropical. I have a surprise for that one though. Oh, I forgot to mark it. Just a second. Okay, and our third palette for today is going to be number 84. Ooh, that's a very nice, dreamy palette. Ooh, you can't tell that I'm blushing, but I'm blushing with excitement. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to be presenting these in order. So first up, we're going to have Teal Dream, and then of course Toucan Sam and the waves. That very pretty teal dreamy color palette is going to be the last character in the video for today. But I also want to expedite this a little bit because I am doing more than one character, and since this is an emphasis on lighting, I'll still show you the most bare bones of the sketch and line art process, but I'm going to go ahead and do the flat colors off screen and then just bring you guys back to show you how to do the lighting. First off, I'm just blocking in my shading with the multiply layer like you've seen me do in videos past. If not, basically you just set up a multiply layer on top with a darker color, and I'm using this layer to do my first pass through for the sunlight, and I'm going to do my lighting in 2 layers. So this is how I do my simple sunlight. As you can see here, I've just cut in a bunch of places where the lighting is going to be to kind of intonate that there's leaves, a tree overhead, and you don't have to be super precise with this method, which is what I really like about it because it's beginner friendly, but you can also mess around with it a lot more and really get in there and actually like put leafy details and things in there As long as you're paying attention to where you want your light source to come from and you're keeping your closest leaves and shading sharp and the ones that are further away blurring them out a little bit more, just really getting that soft organic dithering, you'll be in good shape. And now I'm just picking out a leaf brush to add on top. This is something I like to do from time to time to just kind of push the illusion of a tree being there without actually having to draw the tree. What I do next, I do a add glow layer, and I'm going in with the yellow color from the palette. You can do this with any color. It's usually, if you're trying to do sunlight, it's best to do it with a yellow or an orange. I wouldn't go with a white because that can get too bright. This way, if you're using a color, it will actually, where you're softening the edges, sort of more organically blend with the colors that you have underneath. And so I just dabble in some sunlight where I've already erased parts out from the multiply layer, and just really pushing those highlights where the light would be sharpest coming through the leaves. So in summary, to do the simple sunlight, you have two layers. One layer, which is going to be your multiply layer, which is going to be your initial darkest shadows, and you're going to cut your light into that layer. And then you have your highest layer, which is the add glow, which is where you can add additional stronger sunlight. Overall, I would say the mood for this piece is asynchronous to the lighting, because the expression and the lighting are more or less in contrast of each other. We have the character that is crying and obviously frustrated, but he's out in this beautiful, nice sunny day. So overall, the mood is not threatening. Had I changed the lighting to red or possibly blue, that would certainly alter it in a more threatening or sorrowful direction. The next technique is really simple, but is usually really effective, especially when you're trying to create a harsh or striking mood, whether you're using like neon lights, or if you want to just create a really intense, and it doesn't even have to be, like, I'm using these colors to create a mood of suspense, but it could be used to create a very strong romantic mood or suspicious mood or calm mood. Basically, for this one, you are using solid blocks of color to create your lighting. So this is lighting that is as strong as it can possibly be. For this one, I use the marching ants or the select tool. I select outside of my character, and then I invert that selection so all of my lighting stays within the character. I don't have to worry about going over the edges, and I just block in where I want that light to be. And as you can see, it's very, I don't know how else to describe it other than just like very sharp. It's like a very bright street light. And when I said I had a kind of like a surprise for this character, when you see these colors, these very like bright Fruit Loop tropical colors, you wouldn't immediately, or possibly wouldn't immediately think a suspenseful atmosphere. You might think fun, summer. And so with this one, I wanted to show how a color story can be altered with mood just by changing the language of the colors. So with the yellow, it's very harsh, and of course this is also pushed by her expression, but in the second set I change her expression, but I also change the lighting, but she still has this feeling of mystery and suspense about her, even though I've used the same colors but to different effect. So with the neon lighting or with the sharp lighting, this is best for if you want to just kind of cheat at creating a mood without having to really focus on expression, but having a good expression will also definitely help you achieve whatever effect you're looking for when utilizing this type of lighting. And it's also best to kind of mix it down a little bit. You can see here I do water it down just a little bit. I put the transparency down to about 50%, and I do put another layer on top of it just to kind of keep that boldness, but also have the transparency play through. And that's, again, something you can kind of mess around with. For the most part, I wanted to just show you how strong lighting can affect the overall mood of your piece and the mood of the presentation of the characters. For the final lighting technique, I'm going to show you guys a quick way to do water lighting. And this is best done with a reference, but the way I'm going to show you can be, again, just like a quick way to get your lighting idea out there. Again, this is supposed to be, beginner friendly, and I always push practice with references so that you can build up a mental library. So this is just, again, a very quick on-ramp to have some quick techniques in your back pocket when you are just doing some practice sketches and you're not really trying to pull out the full-blown Google Images reference catalog. So the first thing we're going to do, I am blocking out the sections of where I want my light to diffuse from, not unlike the lighting video from the last Saturday morning shuffle, because effectively this is, the way I'm handling this light is kind of like a flashlight source. So I'm selecting the areas that have the highest points of light, and then I'm just going to create a soft wave texture with a soft airbrush with the next lightest color, and then just kind of gradiate the texture with the lighter and darker colors. I've also taken care to do all of my water lighting on a separate layer, because if I do this on the layer where I have my base colors and I'm smudging everything out and softening things, it's going to leave gaps in your initial underpainting. So the best thing to do is to create a separate layer, and this way you also have more flexibility with where you're placing your light if you want to erase back in and soften the texture like I'm doing here. I'm doing this with a mix of the blue underneath and a mix of just going in with an eraser tool and roughing out some of those edges and making things softer in some places and sharper in other places to just kind of mimic a watery, like underwater glow texture. Because this technique is so flexible, you can pretty much find whatever brush sets work best for you. I mentioned using an airbrush to do most of the establishing of the lighting, but as far as going in with the more, we'll call it detail in air quotes, I use a combination of airbrush and there's a brush in Clip Studio called Paint and Apply. And basically, when you use more pressure, you put more pigment in, but if you keep your touch light, you can just kind of soften out the edges. And so I use a mix of airbrush and softer brushes like Paint and Apply or any of the watercolor brushes to really push this effect. And you can leave this as messy as you want it to, or you can really go in there and clean up as much as you want to. Again, this is pretty much just a quick way to get water texture on there when you're trying to get ideas on the canvas. And here's the completed piece. Obviously, I did a little bit of messing around with this off camera because the main thing I wanted to show you was the lighting. If you guys want a bubble tutorial, I can do a quick little bubble tutorial, but it's not much more than what I showed you in this particular video. Overall, the mood I was going for with this piece was just kind of this calm, ethereal mood, which is why I chose to go with the underwater lighting. Like the Toucan Sam Tropical palette, I could have chosen to do something completely different, but I really wanted to lean into the calm vibes that this color palette was providing. So just to recap, here are the pieces from today's tutorial. First we had the sunlight tutorial with our crying farmer here, and next we had the sharp, bold lighting tutorial with our, we'll call her a Higurashi extra, and last but not least we had the calm mood character with the water lighting tutorial. So I hope these tips were helpful for anybody who's getting started with digital art, or maybe you've, you know, got a couple years or months under your belt and you just want some more shortcuts in your library. But yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, have a weird day.